This presentation is mandatory for all test administrators and test proctors. It is the responsibility of the school test coordinator and principal to ensure that all staff have completed this training prior to the test administrator certification training.
The purpose of this presentation is to ensure that all test administrators are aware of the requirements for testing and increase the opportunity for students' tests to be scored appropriately. We also want to make you aware of any situations that might expose you to accusations of inappropriate test administration that might lead to tests being invalidated and potential disciplinary action.
Here are the requirements for being a test administrator. Test administrators are responsible for everything that occurs during the test session. If you have a proctor in the room, they may assist students with logging onto the session and monitoring students, but the test administrator must remain in the classroom at all times.
Let's look at the requirements for administering the test consistently across the state.
Here are the AZM2 test session times for computer-based testing. The reading test is administered in 2 sessions of 45 to 75 minutes each, and the math test has 2 sessions of 60 to 85 minutes each. The writing test takes approximately 45 to 90 minutes. As you know, the writing is an on-demand quick write, and the average time for testing throughout the state has been 78 minutes. For more information about on-demand writing and the scoring for this quick write, please see the on-demand quick write on the TAR.
All students in grades 4 and 8 will participate in the Spring 2020 administration of AIMS Science. High school students in cohorts 2022 or 2023 are eligible to participate in AIMS Science if they have not previously taken the AIMS Science test. Students in cohort 2022, generally 10th graders, who did not participate in the Spring 2019 administration of AIMS High School Science must participate this spring. Students in cohort 2023, generally 9th graders, who are enrolled in a life science course at the high school level may participate in the Spring 2020 administration of AIMS High School Science. Please note that students who are eligible for the alternate assessment should not participate in AZM2 or AIMS Science testing. If you are unsure of which students need to test, please contact your school or district test coordinator.
Prior to testing, please check all accommodations that students are eligible for through their IEP or 504 plan. Directions for special paper version tests are included with the Braille and large print test booklets. The directions for special paper version regular print tests are in the test administrator directions. Any student responses that are not transferred into DEI or TestNav by the test administrator within the testing window will not be scored. Information is included with the special paper version test administration directions for entering student responses.
If a student required a special paper version test, the test administrator must enter student responses in the test system. Please follow your district or charter's procedures for securing test materials during and after entering responses. All test materials must be kept in a locked drawer or cabinet and should always be in the direct control of the test administrator when entering responses. Discuss procedures with your district or school test coordinator for limiting your exposure for any accusations of testing violations. This may include signing the test booklets in and out, having a staff member present while you enter responses, or any procedure you take when handling secure materials.
Here are some tips for making sure that all student tests receive a valid test score.
You must prepare the testing room prior to starting a test session. The 5 items listed are the ones that the state found in their observations during testing last spring that were implemented inconsistently, even within the same school. Please make sure to do the following. Place a Do Not Disturb sign on the door during testing. Have a sign-in, sign-out sheet for restroom breaks. Remove content-related materials from the walls. Arrange student seating for testing, and clear desks and tables of any unnecessary materials, including backpacks. Ask your school test coordinator if you have any questions about preparing your room, and have your district test coordinator contact ADE if you have an unusual testing situation. We will provide guidance on the appropriate testing procedure.
If you are administering the computer-based test, make sure you have a device to start the test and manage students during testing. You may also have a cell phone or a room phone available in case you need assistance when testing. However, please make sure your phone is only being used for testing situations and is put away when not being used. In the case of a student who has a medical need to have access to a cell phone, place the phone on your desk and have the student sit close to the device. You must monitor that the phone is only being used for a medical need.
It is very important for students to be familiar with the sample tests for AZM2 and the tutorial for AIM Science.
Students must use the AZM2 sample test to become familiar with the item types and wording in the stimuli and response options. Students taking the computer-based test should practice using the context menu tools for questions and options. In addition to administering the sample test, this site provides resources for students taking the test. This is a great way to practice proctoring too.
Testing tickets provide student information for students taking the computer-based test to use to sign into AZM2 and AIM Science tests. For AIM Science, it is required that students have their test tickets, since this also provides the individual password for each student. Test tickets for AZM2 include the student's name as it appears in TIDE and the student's SSID. It is strongly recommended that you print these for students. Test tickets for computer-based testing can be printed in TIDE. AIM Science tickets are printed through Pearson Access Next, or PAN. These should not be printed until just prior to testing, so that all student information is the most up-to-date. These test tickets are different and provide different information for students to sign in for each test. The AZM2 test tickets cannot be used for AIM Science. All test tickets are secured documents because they contain student information. All test tickets must be collected after testing and securely shredded.
Test improprieties are any significant issues students have with testing. We will take a look at the most common types of test improprieties and how to avoid them.
If you have system issues, contact your school test coordinator as soon as possible. The school test coordinator will notify the district test coordinator immediately. If your local technology team cannot address the problem, have them contact the AZM2 or AIM Science help desks. Your district test coordinator can notify ADE and request assistance as well. Assist students who have committed an error. In most cases, the student just needs to log in again to begin testing. If students are caught cheating, have them continue testing after you have separated the student and/or removed any appropriate materials or electronics. If you make an error in administering the test, have the students continue testing. In each case, have students continue testing and then record the incident and notify the school test coordinator as soon as possible.
There may be students who are disruptive to others or refuse to test. You may be able to handle this situation quietly and have the student resume testing. In a few cases, the student's behavior is inconsistent with an appropriate testing environment. Please follow your school procedure for handling this type of situation. Some additional suggestions might be to listen to the student's concerns, contact your administrator for assistance, and follow all procedures from an IEP or 504 plan if this applies to your student. In some cases, students just need some time to cool down or to work in a smaller group. Ultimately, if a student has begun testing and refuses to continue that day, the test will be submitted. The student may not continue testing in the session on a subsequent day.
Students who are working productively, reading, reviewing work, writing notes, and responding to the test, must be given time to complete the test. If you have a student who is not working and it is beyond the suggested time limits, you may ask the student if he or she is finished. Students should not continue testing beyond the school day, except in extenuating circumstances and with the permission of your district and ADE.
Please follow these procedures for students who need to leave the room for a break. In the case of an emergency, the test administrator should record the time of the incident and a short note about what occurred. This should be given to the school or district test coordinator. For computer-based tests, it is not enough for students to close the lid of a laptop. The test must be in pause status before they leave their seat. Please make sure you can see that a student has not left the room with an electronic device. This can be cause for an invalidated test.
Please follow these procedures for students who have not completed testing before lunch. If the student is staying in the same room, the student must continue working. A staff member should bring the student lunch. The student should continue to work while they eat their lunch. If the students are moved to an overflow room, the students must pause their test. An adult should silently escort them to the overflow room, then bring lunch to their new testing location. A new testing session must be started if the student has a new proctor. The students should continue to test while eating. If students cannot eat at the computer, one student at a time may pause their test, go to a location in the testing room to eat silently, then return to testing. Under no circumstances should students be sent to another room or outside to eat as a group, even if they eat in silence.
Students who leave school are not permitted to log back into the test session they previously were taking, since that is a testing violation. If a student returns and there is adequate time, the student may take a test in a session that has not yet been started.
All test administrators that will be administering the AZM2 computer-based test must complete the TA certification course in the AZM2 portal. Also, any test administrators that will be administering any special paper version tests, including the paper-based schools, must also complete this certification to have access to the Data Entry Interface, DEI. This certification must be completed every school year. Test administrators will not be able to access a computer-based test or DEI without having completed this certification for school year 2019-2020. DEI is a component of AZM2 computer-based testing system. DEI will be used to enter item responses initially provided by students with special paper version tests. Special paper version tests include the Braille, large print, and regular-sized print tests required per a student's IEP.
All test administrators that will be administering the AIMS Science computer-based testing must become familiar with Pearson Access Next and TestNav. Test administrators will use Pearson Access Next to start the test and monitor students' progress. Students will be logged into TestNav and test using this software.
Only open one test session at a time, unless you're administering makeup sessions. One scenario that may cause a test impropriety is when a student selects the incorrect test and is approved by you to begin working. The student answers a few items and realizes that he or she is not testing in the same session as peers. Instead of pausing the test, the student stops testing and logs out. You must have the student go back into the session that was started and have the student complete that session. We see instances, unfortunately, where test administrators have the student stop the session and begin testing in the session with the class. However, once a student answers a question, ADE cannot reopen the test that was discontinued. The items that have no responses become part of a student's final score. So please have the students finish the session that was started and make up any other sessions at a different time.
Finally, let's look at ways you can protect yourself from any allegations.
By signing the test security agreement, you are agreeing that all test materials are restricted and you will not attempt to gain access to test materials beyond what is granted to you by the school or district test coordinator or superintendent. All test materials that are distributed must be kept under lock and key except during actual test times, and students must not be allowed to remove test materials from the testing room except under the supervision of school personnel.
These are additional test security violations. While these may seem obvious, each year ADE is made aware of instances where these types of situations take place. If a situation arises that you are unsure about, or you have any questions about these, please ask your test coordinator. The district test coordinator can contact ADE by email to provide information and ask for guidance.
If students are having difficulty logging in, you may assist the student and see if the SSID or session ID is incorrect. Remind students to use their legal name and not nicknames as they log in. If you continue to have difficulty, contact the school or district test coordinator. If that person is unavailable, contact the AZM2 or AIM Science Help Desk. Under no circumstances should you ever log in with students' credentials. A test administrator must start and stop their test session when that group of students is testing. If you are administering additional sessions, a new test session must be started for each group of students. You must be present in the room during the entire test session. If you have an emergency, another test administrator who has been trained may take your place. Please be sure to notify the school test coordinator in this case. Do not start a test session for a group of students that you will not be supervising. When you start a test session, you become the test administrator of record, and any issues that occur during that time are your responsibility. The scripted directions you provide to students tells them to submit their tests when they are finished. Students should not keep their sessions open for the entire scheduled testing period unless they are working productively. They should also not keep their test session open while waiting for other students to finish testing. Keeping the session open for longer than needed can lead to allegations of cheating for students, so remind students who are finished testing to submit their test. You may also quietly remind them to follow the procedures you have for students who finish testing early. Please note that students are not permitted to do any computer-based activities after completing the test.
Avoid any serious test irregularities, such as reading portions of the ELA test to students, having relatives of a student in the room while they are testing, scoring, solving, or tampering with test content or responses, preventing students from participating in testing, or providing any reference materials to students. To protect yourself and minimize any additional issues, it is important for you to report any testing incident to your school or district test coordinator. If you witness someone engaging in an unethical or inappropriate manner, you may contact ADE directly with specific information regarding the incident. As you are testing, please make sure to follow all procedures, including walking around to monitor the student during testing.
The TUSD Assessment Resources, or TAR, is a great place to find information about testing. This site can be found under quick links on the intranet or internet. Once there, you will find tabs for AZ Merit, AIMS, and Accommodations.
In order to administer the AZM2 state assessment, you will need to be certified on the portal. Go to azm2portal.org. Click on Educators and Test Administrators. Then, Test Administrator Certification. Once the course is completed, click on the View Print Certificate. If you fail to click on View Print Certificate, you will not receive credit for taking the course. Please give this certificate to your site test coordinator as proof of course completion.
Now that you have completed this training, you will need to take the quiz. Once you have passed the quiz, go to the Transcript tab in True North Logic to print the certificate. Find this course and click on the certificate number to see your certificate. You must print the certificate and give it to your site test coordinator so they know you have completed the course.
We know that testing can be stressful for students, teachers, and administrators. We want you and your students to be successful. Please know that we are here to support your needs. Contact us if you need any support.